Good morning, Rev here this morning. It's Tuesday, January 11th. I hope you're safe and well and blessed and ready to be a witness for Christ. I'm reading to you today from John chapter 2, verses 1 through 11. Excuse me. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." "Dear woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied. "My time has not yet come." And his mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." And so they filled them to the brim, and then he told them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned to wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, "Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now." This is the first of his miraculous signs that Jesus performed at Cana in Galilee. He thus revealed his glory, and his disciples put their faith in him. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Now, this is Jesus' first miracle. He performs it in Cana of Galilee. Now, let me first tell you what this story is not. This is not a story that gives permission or it gives you an excuse to drink alcohol. Some have suggested that, but that's not. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you this morning that alcohol in moderate or reasonable amounts is sin. There are some arguments that alcohol has some medicinal purposes. Obviously, that's an abused argument, but it's a decision that you have to make on your own. Alcohol can be a deadly and destructive force, but you cannot make your decision based on this story. It just simply doesn't have anything to do with it. The fact of the matter is, drunkenness is a disgrace. And they actually drank their wine in a mixture of 2 parts wine to 3 parts water. This story is a revelation to who Jesus is. Now remember who's writing this. The Apostle John. And now, this is the same John that wrote the book of Revelation. Now let's take a look at what's going on here. The wedding celebration lasted for days. The wedding ceremony itself took place late in the evening. According to Jewish law, a virgin was to be married on a Wednesday. And then the ceremony was then followed by a feast. And after the ceremony, the young couple were accompanied to their new home. And by this time it was dark, and so they paraded through the streets with torches and canopy over their heads. And they took the longest route possible so as many people as possible could wish them well. No honeymoon. They stayed there in their home, and for a week they had open house. And they wore crowns and bridal robes, and they were treated and they were addressed as royalty. Their word was law. And it was a week of festivity, a week of joy, and it was a supreme occasion. For a Jewish feast, though, wine was essential. In fact, the rabbis would say, without wine, there is no joy. And to run out of wine was of the greatest humiliations. And so Mary comes to Jesus and says, they're out. They're out of wine. Now, Mary was apparently part of the wedding party who had kind of charge of what kind of took place there at the party. But she had enough authority to tell the servants what to do. And so Many say that Jesus kind of became indignant to Mary when she says they're out of wine. He says, "Woman, why do you involve me?" But actually, this is a common conversational phrase, and it was spoken gently. In fact, my woman says, "Dear woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus' reply to Mary is not one of reproach, but it indicates here a misunderstanding of the situation. What Jesus is saying, excuse me, he's saying, don't worry, you don't quite understand what's going on. Just leave things to me and I will settle it all in my own way. And that's why Mary could turn to the servants and say, do whatever he tells you. She knew exactly what Jesus meant. So Jesus tells him to get the 6 stone jars, fill them with water, and of course the water becomes wine. Ephesians chapter 3 verse 20 tells us that he is able to do immeasurably more than we can ask or think. So look at what happens here. Number 1, the bridegroom's needs were met. Number 2, Jesus reveals his glory. And number 3, his disciples put their faith in him. This is which is not something that Jesus did once in Palestine. You see, Jesus continues to pour out his grace today, every day. And whenever Jesus comes into a person's life today, there comes a new quality in their life that's like turning water into wine. With Jesus, there is abundant grace and abundant joy. I'm Pastor Mark. Love you guys. Be safe, be well, be blessed, be strong. Go do something for Jesus. I'll see you tomorrow.